I'm not often terrified, but I was terrified this one night in West Texas because we had left here to get to a place called Chinati Hot Springs. Many of you know that place. We'd left at 2 after my last appointment, and we knew we were going to be getting there late, around midnight. So we got to Marfa. We took our time. We got there about 9, and the GPS said take a left here. And so we took a left, and then the pavement ran out. And I'm from the suburbs. So the pavement running out constitutes an emergency. But Kaya reassured me that in the West, there are lots of dirt roads, and it's not an emergency. It's going to be all right. I said, "Are you sure that it leads somewhere?" And she said, "Yes, the road leads somewhere." I have trust issues, but I was convinced. And then a jackrabbit came out, and we missed it. And then a javelina, looking ghostly with its eyes glowing. And then another one right behind it. I don't know how we missed that one. So my heart was beating pretty fast. And it was pitch black dark. Did I mention that? And the road started becoming rutted, and big rocks were in the road. We had to steer around them. There were washes, and out my window I could sense a great big nothing. The road was going like this, and out my window was nothing. I said, "Kaya, I think there's really just nothing out there." And she said, "Think rolling fields, Meg. Picture rolling fields." Every now and then the headlights would catch on a mountainside, which was way on the other side of the nothing. And then clunk, rock. After the second cattle gate that we went through, I thought, this is not a road. I don't care where we are. This road is going to end up in somebody's front yard, or else it's just going to be a joke road, and it ends up at a wall like this, and then we have to go all the way back. And suddenly Mary was in my mind as a friendly, approachable presence. I don't know what to tell you about that, but I started talking to her. I was raised Presbyterian. I was not raised talking to Mary. But I confided my terror in her. I was just like, "Please, I'm scared out of my mind. I don't want to bother Kaya with my terror." So I'm just going to ask you to get us there safely and help me understand what this nothing is out here, and what this road is doing, and honk. And did I mention get us there? And then the GPS goes, "Signal lost." I'm like, oh! We finally did get there about midnight, and the person who showed us to our little room said, "Which way did you come?" And we said, "The GPS brought us by the Pinto Canyon Road." And she went, "In that car? The Honda Civic right there?" Uh-huh. She said, "Usually people rent 4-wheel drive cars to go on that road." Yeah. So when we got into the room, there on the wall was Mary, the Virgin of Guadalupe. And so I feel a special gratitude to her for welcoming us there after my night of terror. And so I wanted to, I think she's just around in the air. After I decided I was going to preach on the Magnificat, which is a hymn of Mary's, suddenly National Geographic this month is about Mary, and suddenly there's a big TV special next Sunday night on Mary, and so she's somehow in the air. But I want to tell you about the Magnificat, which is the oldest hymn of the Christian religion. There are 8 ancient hymns, and the Magnificat is the most ancient one. And as you heard in the children's story, the hymn was placed into Mary's mouth by the gospel writer in a context of her visiting her cousin Elizabeth, who was pregnant with John. John the Baptist is how we know that, John. And so Mary, carrying Jesus, just barely, came to visit her cousin, and the baby leaped in Elizabeth's womb, and Elizabeth had this moment of prophecy where she said who this baby was that Mary was carrying, and Mary opens her mouth and says, "My soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God my Savior, for he has looked on the humble estate of his servant. For behold, from now on all generations will call me blessed. For he who is mighty has done great things for me, and holy is his name. And his mercy is for those who fear him from generation to generation. He has shown strength with his arm. He has scattered the proud in the thoughts of their hearts. He has brought down the mighty from their thrones and exalted those of a humble estate. He has filled the hungry with good things, and the rich he has sent away empty. He has helped his servant Israel in remembrance of his mercy, as he spoke to our fathers, to Abraham and his offspring forever." So this is what's known as a hymn of reversal. The proud and mighty will be brought low, and the poor and the hungry will be lifted up. There are lots of hymns of reversal in the teachings of Rabbi Jesus. And in the Hebrew scriptures, there are texts of reversal as well, one of which was set to music by Handel in Messiah. You all know this one. "Every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain and hill be made low, and the crooked shall be made straight, and the rough places plain." So what is the meaning of all of this reversal imagery that is attached to the festival of Christmas? One reason is because it's the feast of Christ, whose main message in almost all of his teachings was this about the poor being blessed and the hungry being fed and the rich being in danger of not getting it. You all remember the Sermon on the Mount, which if that's all of the Christian scripture you ever read, that'll do ya. He says in the Beatitudes, "Blessed are the poor in spirit." I mean, read it and then live it. I forgot to say that little part. "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven," etc. So, because of all of this reversal, because of all this teaching of Christianity that the systems as they were going to be upended, the Romans, who were contemporary with the spread of Christianity, called it a religion for slaves and women. They valued strength, they valued power, they valued authority, and then when they said power, they didn't mean empowering others. They meant power over. Different kind of power. So this upside-down world has absolutely no appeal for those for whom the system is working well. You'd like to keep the system the way it is because it's working for you. So also I think Christmas attached this upside-downness to Christmas because of Saturnalia. The Christian and Roman syncretism, when the Christian church took over the Roman religions, they had a feast called Saturnalia that was on December 25th, and in the Saturnalia festivals, the slaves were allowed to play master for a day, and the masters were allowed to play slave for a day and have the fun of having somebody tell them what to do all day before they got back to the normal bossing around and beating that was part of being the master. So for one day, everybody got to let off steam, but in a way, that kind of letting off steam reversal is what keeps the system the way it is, keeps it cooking along. If you let off steam every now and then, you might not have a revolution. Our contemporary ways of letting off steam in the system, so the system is the way it is. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer, yada, yada. You all know how it is. We've been watching television this whole month. It's very discouraging. And a couple of the things that allow the system to stay this way without a revolution are, number one, the lottery, which is the opiate of the people. Nobody wants anything bad to happen to the system because one day they're going to be rich because they're going to hit the lottery. And so I don't want anything to happen to that class of society because I'm going to be in it one day. So the lottery, if you took away the lottery, you'd have revolution, in my humble opinion. Another little trinket that helps things stay the way they are scholarships, where you take the best and the brightest. I'm not saying scholarships are cynically given. I'm just saying if we didn't have them, we would have revolution. Because we want to have the best and the brightest from among the downtrodden, be able to become educated and become part of the system. System's going to work for you. Look, it worked for Jake. Jake got a scholarship. He got to the top of his class. It's working for him. It can work for anybody. Cecil John Rhodes, creator of the Rhodes Scholarship, he wanted there to be people from foreign lands brought to England for a good English education, people with leadership skills to promote understanding among the nations. And yet, it mostly promotes understanding of English culture when you get sent to Oxford for your education. And you have leadership skills, so you become part, I'm not going to say the word co-opted, but I do wonder about it. But when you have the best and the brightest with the leadership skills from foreign lands coming to England for an Oxford education, you are not going to overthrow that system, or you're less likely to want to overthrow that system. So I think that there are ways that the system keeps the steam from building up, and it stays the way it is. If you dangle inclusion as a possibility in front of the dispossessed, then they feel there's a chance for inclusion. If you cut off inclusion, for example, George Washington wanted to be an English nobleman. The Englishman said, no, you can't be a nobleman. You're an American. No inclusion dangled. Revolution. If they had just let him be a nobleman, we'd all be speaking English today. But the hymn of Mary is not a letting off steam reversal. It is a revolutionary reversal. When Jesus talks about blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth, this is what got him killed. The radical reversal of the system the way it is to a system of justice. Now, I love the idea of the hungry being fed. I'm not so crazy about the rich being sent empty away. I love me a lot of rich people in my family and in my best friends. I don't want them to be hungry. And compared to a lot of people, I'm rich myself, so it kind of makes me nervous. The system is working well for a lot of us, but we want, so I come to you today as a person who is a middle-class white bourgeois people who just wants things to be a little fairer. I'm not really sure I want a radical reversal of everything, but Mary did, so there you go. But when I think from the revolutionary part of myself, when I think about a world where there's justice, I get a longing for it. I get a longing for a world where the hungry are fed. I get a longing for a world where artists, dancers, and musicians are extraordinarily well paid in the society. I get a longing for a place where citizens of color will be treated justly by every law enforcement system and every judicial system, and not just, and I'm going to say something weird here, I want mediocre citizens of color who are petty criminals to be treated well by mediocre law enforcement systems. Because once you have the middle doing all right, you've really got change going on. And part of what lets off steam in our culture is this praise and outrage dichotomy that we have on Facebook, where we go, look what one law enforcement officer did. This was wonderful. Look what another law enforcement officer did. This was terrible. And we have this wonderful, terrible, wonderful, terrible. And so people can say, yes, a few are terrible, but look how many wonderful. It's like none of that is the middle. None of that is meaning change. Change is when the middle is okay. See what I'm saying? I want it to be safe for me to walk without fear late at night wherever I want to walk. I want you to be able to walk without fear late at night wherever you want to walk. I want a male of color to be able to jog in his neighborhood in a hoodie without being stopped by the police because he's running from something. Know what I mean? I just want a world that's more fair. I want the oil companies to have to fund a lot of this change while still paying their dividends to the stockholders, of course. But I want this hoarding of money to be outlawed. I want lobbyists for the NRA to be shining people's shoes in front of fancy hotels. That's what I want. I'd like to see arms manufacturers not create hundreds and hundreds of thousands of weapons, but I'd like them to have to retool so that they make nice, smart guns that work really well for the people whose guns they are, so they can target shoot, nice rifles so they can go hunting, but only assault rifles for military people and law enforcement people. I want them to have to retool some of their factories so that they make little figurines of cats and horses out of gun parts. And this is just my imagination. I'm not in charge of the world, thank goodness. And so you think in your own mind about what your reversed world would be. What would it be? And if you don't want anything reversed, if you think everything's pretty good the way it is, which I don't think anybody in this room does, then you're fine. Just know that you're not aligned with any major religion of the world. What of our goodies would we be willing to give up so there could be less inequality? What kind of world would we be willing to live in that was a just world? I want this beautifully set music where the words are in Latin. I want us to know what a radical statement this is from Mary. And I want it to disturb our comfort. And I want it to disrupt our thoughts. And I want us to, as Mary would say, ponder all of this in our hearts.